Life has a way of throwing us curveballs when we least expect them, losing a job, facing rejection, or dealing with situations that feel deeply unfair. In those moments, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, frustrated, or even powerless. But what if there was a way to face these challenges not with anger or despair, but with calm and clarity? Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This simple yet profound idea is at the heart of Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches us how to stay grounded, even when life feels unjust. In this video, we're going to explore 20 powerful Stoic lessons that can help you navigate life's unfairness with grace and resilience. These aren't just abstract ideas, they're practical tools you can use to transform the way you respond to challenges, big and small. Whether you're dealing with personal setbacks, professional struggles, or just the everyday frustrations that life throws your way, these lessons will empower you to stay calm, focused, and in control. So, if you've ever felt like life isn't playing fair, or if you're looking for ways to build inner strength and peace, you're in the right place. Let's dive into these timeless Stoic principles and discover how they can help you rise above life's injustices with wisdom and resilience. Life often feels unfair, doesn't it? We pour our energy into trying to change things beyond our reach, only to end up frustrated and exhausted. This is where Stoicism offers a powerful shift in perspective. At its core, Stoic philosophy teaches us the dichotomy of control, the idea that some things are within our power while others are not, the unfairness we feel. It often comes from external events we can't control, but here's the key. Stoics like Epictetus remind us that our true power lies not in what happens to us, but in how we choose to respond. Epictetus once said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Think about that for a moment. It's not the rude comment from a coworker or the traffic jam on your way to work that defines your experience, it's how you react to it. Stoicism doesn't ask us to ignore the unfairness of life. Instead, it invites us to redirect our focus. What can you control in that moment? Your attitude, your actions, your perspective. Let's bring this to life with a modern example. Imagine you're at work and a colleague snaps at you for no apparent reason. It's easy to feel hurt, angry, or even tempted to retaliate. But here's the Stoic approach. Pause and ask yourself, can I control their behavior? No. Can I control how I respond? Absolutely. By choosing to remain calm, setting boundaries, or even walking away, you reclaim your power. This shift doesn't just diffuse tension. It brings a sense of calm and clarity to an otherwise chaotic situation. So, here's a question to reflect on. What's one situation in your life where you've tried to control the uncontrollable? Maybe it's a relationship, a job, or even the weather. How could shifting your focus to what's truly within your power change the way you experience it? This isn't about giving up. It's about recognizing where your energy can make the most difference. And that's where true calm begins. Life, by its very nature, is unpredictable, filled with moments of joy, but also challenges that can feel deeply unfair. This isn't a flaw in the system, it's the system itself. The Stoic philosopher Seneca understood this better than most. He once wrote, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." At first glance, this might sound bleak, but Seneca wasn't advocating despair. Instead, he was pointing to a profound truth. Life's difficulties aren't personal attacks or cosmic mistakes. They're simply part of the fabric of existence. Imagine for a moment that you're caught in a sudden storm. You didn't ask for it, and it might feel unfair, but the storm isn't targeting you. It's just doing what storms do. In the same way, life's hardships, whether it's a sudden illness, a job loss, or a broken relationship, aren't sent to punish you. They are part of the natural ebb and flow of life. Stoicism teaches us to accept this reality not as a burden but as a starting point for growth. As Seneca put it, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Think about how this perspective shifts your experience of adversity. Let's say you're facing a sudden illness. At first, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, angry, or even betrayed. But what if, instead of resisting the situation, you accepted it as a natural part of life? This doesn't mean giving up or ignoring the pain. It means acknowledging the reality of the situation without letting it define your emotional state. By doing so, you create space to respond with clarity and resilience, rather than reacting with frustration or despair. So, here's a question to reflect on. How might your perspective change if you saw life's unfairness not as a personal injustice, but as a natural part of existence? What if, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you asked, "What can I learn from this?" This shift doesn't make the challenges disappear, but it does change how you experience them. And that, according to Stoicism, is where true power lies. Imagine standing on the edge of a storm, watching the chaos unfold but never stepping into its fury. That's the essence of cognitive detachment, a powerful Stoic practice that allows us to observe our thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, often wrote about this very idea. He encouraged us to step back, to view life's events as if we were looking down from a mountaintop, seeing them for what they truly are, temporary and often beyond our control. In his words, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Let's bring this to life with an example. Picture someone at an airport staring at a screen that says their flight has been cancelled. The natural reaction might be frustration, anger, or even panic. But instead of spiraling into those emotions, they pause. They remind themselves that the cancellation is outside their control, and their energy is better spent finding a solution rather than dwelling on the problem. By detaching from the initial emotional surge, they're able to think clearly, book the next available flight, and move forward without unnecessary stress. This is the power of cognitive detachment. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about creating a mental space where you can see your thoughts and feelings for what they are. Just thoughts, just feelings. They don't have to define your actions or dictate your day. The next time you find yourself overwhelmed, try this simple but profound question: is this thought helping me or harming me? If it's the latter, it might be time to let it go, step back, and regain your clarity. This small shift in perspective can make all the difference. Can gratitude exist in the face of unfairness? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive, especially when life throws us curveballs that seem impossible to navigate. But Stoicism offers a profound perspective here. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This idea is at the heart of cultivating gratitude amidst hardship, finding light even in the darkest moments. Let's take a step back and consider how this works. Stoics believed that every situation, no matter how difficult, contains something of value. It's not about denying pain or pretending everything is perfect. Instead, it's about shifting your focus to what you do have control over: your perspective, your attitude, and your ability to find meaning in the struggle. Think of it like this: when you're stuck in a storm, you can't control the rain, but you can appreciate the strength it takes to endure it. Here's a story that illustrates this beautifully. Imagine a woman who loses her job unexpectedly. At first, she's overwhelmed, angry, scared, and feeling like life has dealt her an unfair hand. But instead of letting despair take over, she begins to reflect on what she still has: her health, her family, and even the opportunity to explore new paths she might not have considered before. Over time, she discovers that this setback became a catalyst for growth, pushing her to build a life she's even more proud of. Her gratitude didn't erase the hardship, but it gave her the strength to move forward with purpose. So, what's one thing you can be grateful for, even in your current challenges? It might be something small, like a kind word from a friend, or something bigger, like the lessons you're learning through the struggle. Gratitude doesn't require perfection. It simply asks you to look for the good, even when it's hard to see. And in doing so, you might find that it's not just a practice, it's a lifeline, helping you stay grounded and resilient no matter what life throws your way. Life has a way of feeling unfair when we're caught in the whirlwind of regret over what's already happened or anxiety about what might come next. It's easy to get stuck replaying old mistakes or worrying about future uncertainties, but Stoicism offers a powerful antidote, the practice of embracing the present moment. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, wrote extensively about this idea in his Meditations. He reminded himself that the past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only thing we truly have is the here and now. In his words, you could leave life right now, let that determine what you do and say and think. It's a stark but profound reminder that the present is all we're guaranteed. So, how do we shift our focus to the present, especially when life feels overwhelming or unjust? Start small. On a particularly tough day, it might feel impossible to change your circumstances, but you can always choose where to direct your attention. Maybe it's savoring the first sip of your morning coffee, feeling the warmth of sunlight on your skin, or simply taking a deep breath and noticing the stillness around you. These tiny moments of presence can act as anchors, pulling you back from the storms of regret and worry. Think about it. When was the last time you truly allowed yourself to be fully immersed in the present? Not thinking about what you need to do next, not dwelling on what went wrong yesterday, but just being here right now. The Stoics believed that by focusing on the present, we reclaim our power. We stop being prisoners of time and start living with intention and clarity. Here's a challenge for you. What's one thing you can do today to fully embrace the present moment? Maybe it's putting your phone away during a meal, taking a walk without distractions, or simply sitting quietly for a few minutes to observe your surroundings. The key isn't to change everything at once, but to start small and build from there. After all, the present moment isn't just a philosophical concept, it's a practice, one that can transform how you experience life, even when it feels unfair. Unfairness is not the end. It's the beginning of growth. This might sound counterintuitive, especially when life feels like it's throwing one obstacle after another at you. But Stoicism invites us to see adversity through a different lens. The Stoics, like Seneca, believed that challenges are not just random acts of cruelty from the universe. Instead, they are opportunities, gifts even, to strengthen our resilience, sharpen our character, and uncover our true potential. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." In other words, every hardship is a chance to grow, to learn, and to become more than we were before. Think about it this way: when life feels unfair, it's easy to feel stuck, to focus on what's been taken from you. But what if you shifted your perspective? What if you saw that same unfairness as a call to action? Take the story of Thomas Edison, for example. When his lab burned down, destroying years of work, he didn't see it as a catastrophe. Instead, he famously said, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew." That's the Stoic mindset in action. He didn't let the fire define him. He used it as fuel to rebuild, to innovate, and to move forward. So, how can you reframe your current challenges as opportunities for growth? Start by asking yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this situation make me stronger? Maybe it's a chance to practice patience, to develop new skills, or to reevaluate what truly matters to you. The key is to shift your focus from what's been lost to what can be gained. Life's unfairness doesn't have to break you, it can build you if you let it. And that's where the real power lies. Have you ever poured your heart into something, whether it was a project at work, a creative endeavor, or even just showing up for a friend, only to feel like no one noticed or appreciated it? That sting of disappointment when others don't recognize your efforts can feel like a punch to the gut. It's natural to want validation, to crave that nod of approval or praise from others. But here's the thing. Stoicism teaches us that tying our self-worth to external validation is a recipe for constant frustration. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or foolish in the eyes of others." What he's saying is radical but liberating. Your worth isn't determined by what others think of you. It's rooted in how you see yourself, in the standards you set for your own character and actions. When you stop seeking approval from others, you reclaim your power. You're no longer at the mercy of their opinions, and that's where true freedom begins. Take, for example, the story of an artist who spent years chasing recognition, submitting work to galleries, hoping for praise, and feeling crushed whenever it didn't come. One day, they decided to create purely for themselves, focusing on what they loved rather than what they thought would impress others. Over time, they found a deep sense of peace and fulfillment, not because others finally noticed their work, but because they stopped needing that validation to feel complete. So, let me ask you this. What would it feel like to stop seeking validation from others and focus instead on your own standards? What if you measured your success not by applause or approval, but by the integrity of your actions and the authenticity of your efforts? It's not an easy shift, but it's one that can transform how you move through the world. When you learn to validate yourself, you step into a space of quiet strength, one where external opinions no longer hold the power to define you. Now, let's move to Lesson 8, practice voluntary discomfort. This is where Stoicism takes a bold and practical turn, urging us to step into challenges willingly rather than waiting for life to throw them at us. Think of it like training for a marathon. You don't just show up on race day unprepared. You condition your body and mind over time, building strength through consistent effort. The Stoics believed the same principle applies to life. By embracing small, intentional hardships, we prepare ourselves to handle life's inevitable struggles with grace and resilience. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest voices, put it this way: "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" He's asking us to confront our fears of discomfort head-on, to realize that we're far more capable than we think. It's not about punishing ourselves, but about proving to ourselves that we can endure and even thrive in less than ideal circumstances. So, what does this look like in practice? It could be as simple as skipping a meal to fast for a day, or taking a cold shower instead of a warm one. These acts might seem trivial, but they serve a powerful purpose. They remind us that we don't need every comfort to be okay. They train us to find strength in simplicity and to appreciate what we have by temporarily going without. These small, voluntary acts of discomfort build a kind of mental toughness that becomes invaluable when life gets tough. Here's a question to reflect on. What's one small discomfort you can embrace today to build your resilience? It doesn't have to be extreme. Start small. Maybe it's turning off the heater in your car for a short drive or resisting the urge to check your phone for an hour. The key is to choose something that challenges you just enough to stretch your comfort zone without overwhelming you. Over time, these small acts of discipline compound, helping you face life's bigger challenges with a calm and steady mind. What if your success wasn't measured by results but by your character? This is the core question Stoicism invites us to ask ourselves. The Stoics believed that true success lies not in what we achieve externally, wealth, fame, or status, but in how we act and who we become internally. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most revered Stoic philosophers, put it this way: waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be one. His words remind us that virtue acting with integrity, courage, and wisdom is the ultimate measure of a meaningful life. Think about it. So much of what we chase in life is outside our control. Promotions, recognition, even the approval of others, these things depend on circumstances, luck, and the decisions of other people, but our character, that's entirely up to us. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our choices, our values, and how we respond to challenges. When we prioritize virtue over outcomes, we free ourselves from the anxiety of chasing results and instead find peace in knowing we've done the right thing. Take the story of a small-town teacher who spent years nurturing students who faced immense challenges. Many of her students didn't graduate or achieve conventional success, but she never measured her impact by those outcomes. Instead, she focused on showing up every day with patience, kindness, and a commitment to doing what was right. Years later, former students reached out to thank her for the lessons in resilience and integrity she taught them, lessons that shaped their lives far more than any test score ever could. Her story is a powerful reminder that living with virtue often leaves a lasting legacy, even if the rewards aren't immediate. So how can you shift your focus from outcomes to your actions? Start by asking yourself, am I acting with integrity even when no one is watching? Am I making choices that align with my values regardless of the results? When you prioritize virtue, you'll find that success takes on a whole new meaning, one that's grounded in who you are, not what you achieve. Sometimes, life's unfairness can feel overwhelming, like a weight we can't shake. But what if I told you that much of that heaviness comes from forgetting one simple truth? Life is fleeting, it's temporary, and when we lose sight of that, the small injustices, the setbacks, and the disappointments can start to feel like they define everything. This is where the Stoic practice of Memento Mori, remembering death, comes in. It's not about being morbid or dwelling on the negative, it's about gaining perspective. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "You could leave life right now, let that determine what you do and say and think." At first glance, it might sound stark, but there's profound wisdom here. By remembering that our time is limited, we're reminded to focus on what truly matters. The trivialities, the things that feel unfair in the moment, begin to lose their grip on us. Take, for example, the story of a young entrepreneur who lost everything in a failed business venture. At first, he was consumed by anger and frustration, feeling like life had dealt him an unfair hand. But then, he stumbled upon the idea of Memento Mori. He started reflecting on the impermanence of life, realizing that his setbacks were just a small part of a much bigger picture. Instead of dwelling on what he'd lost, he began focusing on what he still had: his health, his relationships, and the opportunity to start again. That shift in perspective didn't just bring him calm, it reignited his passion for life. So here's a question for you to consider. What would you prioritize if you truly remembered how short life is? Would the things that feel unfair today still weigh so heavily on you? Or would you choose to focus on what brings you joy, meaning, and connection? Remembering the impermanence of life isn't about dismissing your struggles, it's about putting them in their proper place. It's about realizing that even in the face of unfairness, you have the power to choose where to direct your energy, and that in itself is a profound kind of calm. Have you ever felt wronged by someone, only to later realize there was more to the story than you initially saw? Often, what feels like unfairness is rooted in misunderstandings, moments where we misinterpret someone's actions or intentions. The Stoics teach us to pause and consider the full picture, especially when emotions are running high. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote, "When someone behaves badly, ask yourself, what makes them think this is the right thing to do?" This line of thinking invites us to step into another person's shoes, to see their actions not as personal attacks, but as the result of their own struggles, fears, or limitations. Let's take a moment to reflect on a story that illustrates this beautifully. Imagine a manager who felt betrayed when a team member consistently missed deadlines. Frustrated and ready to confront them, the manager decided to first ask a simple question: "Is everything okay?" What followed was a heartfelt conversation. The team member had been dealing with a family crisis and was too ashamed to ask for help. By practicing empathy instead of anger, the manager not only resolved the issue but also strengthened the team's bond. This is the power of understanding. It transforms conflict into connection. So, the next time someone wrongs you, ask yourself, what might they be going through? What unseen battles could they be fighting? This isn't about excusing harmful behavior, but about shifting your perspective to respond with wisdom rather than reactivity. How can you approach that person with empathy instead of anger? It's not always easy, but as the Stoics remind us, it's in these moments that we truly grow. One of the most powerful tools Stoicism offers is the practice of morning reflection, a deliberate pause to set the tone for your day. Imagine waking up and, instead of immediately diving into the chaos of emails, notifications, and to-do lists, you take a few moments to center yourself. This isn't just a modern self-help trend. It's a practice rooted in the life of Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most renowned Stoic philosophers. He would begin each day by reminding himself of the challenges he might face, the virtues he aimed to embody, and the people he would encounter. In his meditations, he wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This simple yet profound mindset shift can transform how you approach the hours ahead. So, how can you incorporate this into your own life? Start small. Dedicate just 5 to 10 minutes each morning to reflection. This could look like journaling about what you're grateful for, meditating on a Stoic principle like courage or patience, or even mentally rehearsing how you'll handle potential challenges. For instance, if you know you'll face a difficult conversation, take a moment to remind yourself to respond with calmness rather than react with emotion. The goal isn't to predict every detail of your day, but to cultivate a mindset of intention and resilience. Think of it like sharpening a blade before a battle. The sharper your focus and clarity, the better equipped you'll be to navigate whatever comes your way. And here's a question to consider. What's one thing you can reflect on each morning to stay grounded? It could be as simple as acknowledging your ability to choose how you respond to adversity, or reminding yourself of the bigger picture when stress feels overwhelming. By starting your day with this kind of intentionality, you're not just preparing for the challenges ahead. You're building a foundation for a calmer, more purposeful life. Have you ever found yourself caught in a cycle of venting your frustrations, only to feel even more drained afterward? Maybe it's about a coworker who never pulls their weight, or a friend who always seems to cancel plans last minute. It's natural to want to let off steam, but here's the thing. Stoicism teaches us that complaining and blaming others not only wastes precious energy, but also keeps us stuck in a loop of helplessness. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it bluntly, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we complain, we give away our power to change the situation, focusing instead on what's out of our control. Think about it. How much time have you spent blaming someone else for a problem, only to realize that nothing has actually improved? Stoicism reminds us that blame is a dead end. It doesn't solve anything, it only magnifies our sense of victimhood. Instead of pointing fingers, what if we shifted our focus to what we can do? There's a powerful story about a man who used to complain endlessly about his job, long hours, a difficult boss, and endless stress. One day, he decided to stop venting and start taking action. He began updating his resume, networking, and eventually landed a new role that suited him better. By choosing to act rather than complain, he transformed his frustration into opportunity. So here's a challenge for you. What's one situation in your life where you can replace complaining with constructive action? Maybe it's addressing a recurring issue at work or having that tough conversation with a loved one. Remember, every moment spent complaining is a moment that could be spent moving forward. Stoicism doesn't ask us to ignore our feelings. It invites us to channel them into something productive. When we stop blaming and start taking responsibility, we reclaim our power to shape our own lives. There's a powerful Stoic exercise that invites us to step back and see life from a cosmic perspective, what the ancient Stoics called the view from above. Picture this: you're not just you, sitting in your room or walking down a street. You're part of something infinitely larger, a tiny speck in the vast expanse of the universe. This practice, rooted in the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, asks us to zoom out, way out, until the things that feel overwhelming or unfair shrink into their proper size. In his meditations, Marcus wrote, "Look at the stars and see yourself running with them." It's a reminder that our struggles, no matter how heavy they feel, are just a small part of a much bigger picture. When life feels unfair, this exercise can be a profound tool for shifting your perspective. Think about it. From the viewpoint of the cosmos, your challenges, your setbacks, even your greatest achievements, are fleeting moments in the grand timeline of existence. It's not about dismissing your struggles, but about seeing them in context. When you realize how small your problems are in the scale of the universe, they lose some of their power over you. It's like standing on a mountain and looking down at the world below. Suddenly, everything seems quieter, more manageable. History gives us examples of people who found peace by adopting this perspective. Take the story of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. In the midst of unimaginable suffering, he found solace by imagining himself looking down on his life from above, as if observing it from a distance. This mental shift didn't erase his pain, but it gave him the clarity to see that his suffering was part of a larger human experience. It allowed him to endure with dignity and purpose, even in the face of overwhelming unfairness. So, how can you use the view from above to gain perspective on your own challenges? Start by taking a moment to pause and imagine yourself rising above your current situation. Picture the Earth from space with its swirling clouds and endless oceans. See your life as one thread in the vast tapestry of existence. Ask yourself, does this problem really define me? Will it matter in a year, a decade, or a century? By zooming out, you're not ignoring your feelings. You're giving yourself the gift of clarity, and sometimes that's all it takes to find calm in the chaos. Unfairness feels worse when we expect fairness. This is a truth the Stoics understood deeply. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote extensively about the dangers of entitlement and the freedom that comes when we release the belief that life owes us anything. He said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality, and this is especially true when we cling to the idea that things should be fair. The moment we let go of that expectation, we begin to see life as it is, not as we think it should be." Think about it this way: when you feel life is unfair, it's often because you've tied your happiness to an outcome you believe you deserve. Maybe it's a promotion, a relationship, or even just recognition for your efforts. But Stoicism teaches us that these expectations are the root of much of our suffering. The world doesn't operate on a system of rewards and punishments based on merit. It's unpredictable, chaotic, and often indifferent. And when we accept that, we free ourselves from the weight of unmet expectations. There's a powerful story about a man who spent years climbing the corporate ladder, convinced that his hard work guaranteed him a certain level of success. When he was passed over for a promotion, he felt betrayed, like the universe had cheated him. But over time, he began to practice Stoic principles. He realized his resentment wasn't about the promotion itself, but about his belief that he was owed it. When he let go of that entitlement, he found a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. He started focusing on what he could control: his effort, his attitude, his growth, and stopped clinging to outcomes he couldn't guarantee. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. Life doesn't owe us fairness, but we owe it to ourselves to live with resilience and grace. So here's a question to reflect on. What's one expectation you can release to reduce your sense of unfairness? Maybe it's the idea that people should always treat you a certain way, or that your efforts will always yield the results you want. Letting go of these expectations doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It means freeing yourself from the frustration of believing they're guaranteed. And in that freedom, you'll find a deeper sense of calm, no matter how unfair life may feel. In a world that never seems to stop talking, where notifications and noise constantly demand our attention, there's profound wisdom in seeking silence. This is where Stoicism invites us to pause, to cultivate inner peace by stepping away from the chaos. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most revered Stoic philosophers, often retreated into stillness, writing in his meditations. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Imagine that, a retreat not to a faraway place, but within yourself, in the quiet corners of your mind. Silence in Stoic practice isn't just the absence of sound. It's a deliberate act of creating space to reflect, to untangle thoughts, and to reconnect with what truly matters. Think about it. When was the last time you allowed yourself to sit in complete quiet, free from distractions? For many of us, the idea of silence can feel uncomfortable at first, almost foreign. But that discomfort is exactly why it's so powerful. It forces us to confront ourselves, to listen to our own thoughts, and to find clarity in the stillness. One practical way to embrace this practice is through a digital detox. Picture this: you set aside an hour, or even just 20 minutes, to disconnect from your phone, your computer, and all the noise of the outside world. Instead of scrolling or reacting to endless inputs, you simply sit. Maybe you focus on your breath, or you let your mind wander without judgment. Over time, this small act of silence can become a sanctuary, a place where you return to center yourself amidst life's storms. So, ask yourself, how can you carve out moments of silence in your daily life? It doesn't have to be grandiose or time-consuming. It could be as simple as waking up 10 minutes earlier to sit with your coffee in quiet reflection, or taking a walk without headphones, letting the rhythm of your steps become a form of meditation. The key is to make it intentional, to treat silence not as an absence, but as a presence, a gift you give yourself to recharge and refocus. In those moments of stillness, you might just find the peace you've been searching for. What does it mean to forgive when life feels unfair? It's a question that cuts to the core of our emotions, especially when we feel wronged or mistreated. Forgiveness, in the Stoic tradition, isn't about excusing someone else's behavior or pretending the hurt didn't happen. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Forgiveness is a choice, a powerful act of reclaiming your peace. When you let go of bitterness, you're not saying the other person was right. You're saying you deserve to move forward. Think about it this way: holding on to anger is like carrying a heavy stone in your pocket everywhere you go. It slows you down, drains your energy, and keeps you tethered to the past. But when you forgive, you drop the stone, you lighten your load. This isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a practical tool for living a calmer, more centered life. Consider the story of a man who was betrayed by a close friend. For years, he carried the pain, letting it shape his interactions and cloud his happiness. But when he finally chose to forgive, not because his friend deserved it, but because he deserved peace, it was like a fog lifted. He could breathe again. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget or let someone back into your life without boundaries. It means you stop letting their actions control your emotions. You take back your power, so who can you forgive today to lighten your emotional load? It might be someone who wronged you, or it might even be yourself. Because sometimes the hardest person to forgive is the one staring back at you in the mirror. When you release that resentment, you create space for calm, clarity, and a deeper sense of freedom. And in a world that often feels unfair, that kind of inner peace is priceless. When life feels unfair, it's easy to get caught up in the frustration of the moment. But the Stoics remind us that unfairness loses its grip when we shift our focus to the bigger picture. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. It feels overwhelming, chaotic, even unbearable. But if you could step back and see the storm from above, you'd realize it's just one small part of a much larger landscape. That's the power of perspective. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, often wrote about aligning our actions with a greater purpose. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This idea is at the heart of focusing on the bigger picture. It's not about ignoring the challenges or pretending they don't exist. It's about seeing them in the context of something more meaningful, something that gives your life direction and clarity. Think about someone like Nelson Mandela. During his 27 years in prison, he could have been consumed by anger over the injustice he faced. Instead, he chose to focus on his long-term vision, a South Africa free from apartheid. By keeping his eyes on that bigger goal, he not only stayed calm but also inspired the world with his resilience. His story is a powerful reminder that when we anchor ourselves to a purpose, the unfairness of the moment becomes easier to bear. It doesn't mean the pain disappears, but it does mean we're less likely to be derailed by it. So, what's your bigger picture? What's the mission or purpose that drives you? When life feels unfair, how can that purpose guide you through the storm? By focusing on the long term, you're not just surviving the moment. You're building a life that's aligned with what truly matters to you. Life often feels unfair when we cling to what we wish would stay the same, refusing to accept that change is the only constant. Stoicism teaches us that resisting change is like trying to hold back the tide. It's exhausting, futile, and ultimately leaves us feeling powerless. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, reminds us that everything is in a state of flux and nothing stays the same. He encourages us to flow with life's changes rather than fight against them, because it's in this acceptance that we find true calm and resilience. Think about a river. It doesn't resist the rocks in its path. It adapts, flows around them, and keeps moving forward. In the same way, when we embrace change as a natural part of life, we stop seeing it as an enemy. Instead, we start to see it as an opportunity for growth, a chance to learn, and a reminder that we are stronger and more adaptable than we often give ourselves credit for. Consider the story of a woman who lost her job unexpectedly. At first, she felt angry and betrayed, as though life had dealt her an unfair hand. But instead of dwelling on what she had lost, she chose to see this change as a turning point. She used the time to explore a passion she had long neglected, eventually starting her own business. What began as a painful shift became the catalyst for a life she now loves. Her ability to embrace change rather than resist it transformed her hardship into an opportunity. So, what's one change you're resisting right now? Maybe it's a shift in your career, a relationship that's evolving, or even a new phase of life that feels daunting. Take a moment to reflect on how you might begin to accept it, not as a burden, but as a natural part of your journey. What could you gain by letting go of resistance and flowing with the current of life? Lesson 20 brings us to a powerful truth: you are stronger than you think. The Stoics believed deeply in the human capacity to endure, to adapt, and even to thrive in the face of adversity. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a reminder that within each of us lies a reservoir of strength, waiting to be tapped into when life feels overwhelming. Think about Viktor Frankl, a psychologist and Holocaust survivor. Despite enduring unimaginable suffering in concentration camps, he found meaning in his pain and used it to inspire millions through his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl didn't just survive, he transformed his suffering into a source of strength and purpose. His story is a testament to the Stoic principle that our inner resilience can carry us through even the darkest times. So, here's a question to reflect on. What's one challenge you faced that proves your inner strength? Maybe it was a personal loss, a professional setback, or a moment when you felt like giving up but chose to keep going. Whatever it was, that experience is proof of your capacity to endure and rise above. Remember, the Stoics didn't just teach us to survive hardship, they taught us to find strength in it, to grow from it. And that strength is already within you. As we wrap up these 20 lessons, it's clear that Stoicism isn't just a philosophy. It's a practical guide for navigating life's challenges with calm and resilience. Whether you're facing setbacks, feeling overwhelmed by unfairness, or simply trying to find your footing in a chaotic world, Stoicism offers timeless tools to help you stay grounded. At its core, this philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control, to embrace adversity as an opportunity for growth, and to cultivate inner peace no matter what's happening around us. These principles aren't just ideas, they're actionable steps to transform how we respond to life's ups and downs. One of the most powerful lessons we've explored is the idea that external events don't have to dictate our internal state. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, put it beautifully when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." These words remind us that tranquility isn't something we find in the world around us. It's something we build within ourselves. By practicing these Stoic teachings, we can learn to face life's unfairness with clarity, courage, and composure. As you reflect on these lessons, consider how you can apply them in your own life. Maybe it's shifting your focus to what you can control, or finding meaning in the challenges you face. Perhaps it's taking a moment each day to pause, recenter, and remind yourself of what truly matters. The beauty of Stoicism is that it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Every small step you take toward these principles strengthens your ability to stay calm and resilient, even when life feels overwhelming. Before we close, I'd love to hear how these ideas resonate with you. What's one Stoic lesson you're excited to put into practice? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more Stoic wisdom. Together, let's continue building lives of purpose, peace, and unshakable resilience. Thank you for watching, and remember, no matter what life throws your way, you have the power to find calm within the storm.